Reversed roles. Chapter 1. The Predator. Jack had always been a predator. From a young age, he felt a thrill that nothing else could provide when he took control of another person's life. It started with petty things: shoplifting, bullying, vandalism, but quickly escalated to stalking and violence. Jack prided himself on his ability to blend into the shadows, watching his victims for days, sometimes weeks, before making his move. He fed on their fear, the helplessness they exuded when they realized they were completely at his mercy. Tonight, he had chosen his next victim, a young, solitary woman named Sarah. Jack had been observing her for weeks, learning her routines, studying her habits. She lived alone in a modest house on the outskirts of the city, seemingly content with her quiet life. Chapter 2. The Attack Plan. Jack planned everything down to the smallest detail. He knew that Sarah came home every day at 6:30 p.m. after work at an office. At 8 p.m. she would turn on the TV and watch her favorite shows. At 10 p.m. she usually went to bed. Jack decided to strike late at night when she was most likely in a deep sleep. With a masked face and gloves to avoid leaving traces, he broke into the house through the kitchen window. Everything went according to plan. The living room was silent, only the soft hum of the TV breaking the silence. He crept through the hallway and opened the bedroom door. Chapter 3. Encounter with the Unusual. As he entered the bedroom, he saw Sarah lying on the bed. But something was off. Although her body lay still, he felt the presence of something dark and sinister. He tried to wake her, but her eyes opened on their own, devoid of any expression. Before he could react, Sarah lifted off the bed in an unnatural way, as if some invisible force was pulling her up. Her eyes turned completely black, darker than the room itself, and her mouth formed a menacing smile. Jack felt his heart freeze in terror. Chapter 4. Demonic Revelation. The woman slowly spoke to the murderer. "Welcome, Jack," her voice heavy, dark, and piercing. Jack froze. How the hell did she know his name? What was that voice, and the feeling of fear? The same fear he instilled in his victims now overwhelmed him, paralyzing and engulfing his entire body. He was simply terrified and didn't know how to react. "Don't worry, I'll take care of you," he heard as he lifted his gaze. Standing before him was the woman who tonight was supposed to join the distinguished list of his victims. Chapter 5. Fight for Survival. The thing stood before him, smiling and just staring at him while he couldn't even move. "How cute you are, Jack, but also pathetic. Just look at yourself, a grown man who needs to feed his ego with the fear of weak and innocent women. And those women, after their death, no longer fear you. They even wait for you, my friend," Sarah said with undisguised joy. "What the hell are you talking about, woman?" thought Jack. At that moment the woman's hands landed on his head, and her mouth opened so wide it could have swallowed his head whole. But it didn't. It stopped just before him, and from within her came the screams of Jack's victims who in terrifying agony called out to him, almost inviting him to play with them in the depths of darkness. It lasted a moment, but for the would-be murderer, it was an eternity. The demon toyed with him, torturing him mentally, transferring to him the fear, pain, and suffering of his victims. The feelings he invoked and fed on became his downfall. Chapter 6. Deserved Punishment. Finally, the demon released Jack from its grasp, and the man, completely drained of strength, fell to his knees. He said aloud, "Now you understand what it means to be helpless and terrified. I will never hurt any woman again. I'm sorry. I'm so very sorry," he said, in a weak, tear-filled voice. Sarah, her face twisted in a triumphant grin, laughed, and with inhuman speed pierced Jack with her hand, ripping out his heart. Jack felt life leave his body, while darkness enveloped him. He died, suffering, staring at his still-beating heart, which the demon began to devour before his very eyes. Pathetic, thought the possessed Sarah. Epilogue. The next day, Sarah woke up in her bed, stretched, turned on the TV, and went to the bathroom. From the memories of the night before, only a vague recollection of a dream remained. She had no idea that horrific things had occurred in her home, nor that she had survived an encounter with a murderer thanks to a dark force that awakened within her that evening. She washed her face with water, lifted her gaze, and for a moment saw in the mirror eyes black as night, not her own. On the TV, there was news about a murderer who had still not been apprehended by the authorities. If you enjoyed this story, please leave a subscription, a like, and a comment. Best regards to all listeners.